actually going down across the Houston metro, which is great news for home buyers. And we here at Reventure have think these prices will continue to decline over the next year, especially in certain pockets of Houston's housing market. In this video, I'm going to give you our 2026 home price forecast for Houston and educate you guys as home buyers and investors about what's happened in the last year and what's coming in the next year. And the big story in Houston is that we saw the first home price decline, actually the biggest home price decline we've seen in over a decade. The values in the Houston metro dropped 1.9% in the last 12 months from August 2024 to 2025, according to Zillow's Home Value Index, which is available on the Reventure app. You can see that this drop of 1.9% was the biggest one-year decline in Houston since 2011, when values went down 4.5%. Now, interestingly, Houston's a fairly stable housing market. You can see it didn't really crash in the last downturn. The prices then went up 18% during the pandemic. They went down 1.5% in 2023. They were flat in 2024. Now they're down again. And the reason they're down again, and the reason we here at Reventure think they could drop by more in the future, is due to inventory. There's been a big pileup of homes for sale across Houston's housing market over the last 12 to 18 months. There's more and more listings. If you're a home buyer in Houston, an investor, you might have already noticed this. More for sale signs in your neighborhood. You have a lot of builders selling homes in Houston, a lot of investors selling homes. You also have some people who moved in during the pandemic from other states who now are moving back. One of the actual favorite things about Houston's housing market is how affordable it is in certain pockets, which I'm going to get into in a second. You can actually buy houses in Houston for less than $250,000 in a lot of different areas. However, before getting into those affordable houses in Houston, let's look at more of the data about what's going on in Houston's housing market. So currently, across Metro Houston, which is a big area, folks. This is a big area, Metro Houston. It's a lot of different counties. You have Harris County, Montgomery County, Fort Bend County, Brazoria County, Galveston County, Waller County. It's a lot of counties in Houston. 34,000 homes for sale currently. There's 34,000 homes for sale in the Houston metro housing market. Now, how does that compare to the long-term average? If you look at the data from Realtor.com, available on the Reventure app, you can see 34,000 homes for sale. Well, that inventory is up about 75% the last 2 years, and it's the highest level of supply going back at least a decade. So this is great news for you as a potential home buyer. Highest level of supply in Houston going back a decade. That means that ultimately, you're going to have more options, you're going to have more homes for sale, and sellers are going to feel more inclined to cut the price due to this relatively sky-high inventory now on the Houston market. This is very different from 4 years ago during the pandemic, when there was only 16,000 homes. Now there's 34,000 homes on the Houston housing market. And we're seeing more and more sellers now be forced to come to reality with how high this inventory is in Houston. So, maybe a year or two ago, a seller could have gotten away with
Existe la maleta de viaje perfecta. Esta maleta ofrece una forma inteligente.
overpricing their home and selling. That's not really happening anymore. The seller overprices their home across the Houston metro, particularly in certain pockets that are most oversupplied. That house is sitting for 3, 6, maybe 9 months. They're doing multiple price cuts. And, if you're a buyer who's been waiting to buy in Houston, if you're an investor who's been waiting to buy in Houston, this is a great time for you because values are dropping officially and they'll likely drop by more in the future due to how much inventory there is, how long homes are sitting on the market. So that means that you have negotiating leverage. You have negotiating power. If you're a home buyer right now going to buy in the Houston housing market, you actually have the power. You have all the power. The most you've had in over a decade in terms of leverage. So know that going in, if you're a buyer, know that going in that you have the leverage. And if you are looking at different markets in Houston, we're just going to take a quick look at actually just some houses for sale here. Again, Houston is a big, big market. And so, if we go further to the north, there's some suburbs here like Spring and the Woodlands. A lot of people like to live up in the northern suburbs. We also have the western suburbs, Candid. Then we have Sugarland as well, the Southwest. Those are some big home buying pockets. Then we have more like urban Houston. In urban Houston, there's a lot of inventory actually in urban Houston, the east side of Houston. To the west side, these more wealthy areas where the houses go for like $1 million near Rice University. There's still kind of an inventory shortage in these areas near Rice University, these wealthier markets. Also towards the Galleria, there's still an inventory shortage. But on this east side of Houston, if you scroll up, there are a lot of homes for sale. There's actually a lot of affordable homes for sale. We're talking houses like, and I guess this is a lot, but some of these are actually houses for $229,000 on the east side of Houston. Let's take a look at this one, everyone. Is this a good deal? 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet, $229,000. Built in 2025, so this is a new build. This is a new build home on the east side of Houston. Are these real pictures or are these renderings? These look like renderings. However, they're advertising as a new build, 2025, 3x2. Monthly mortgage payment on this would be $1,400 a month. Is that a good deal? I mean, that's pretty affordable compared to a lot of other markets. You can see here that the builder's done a 2% price cut after a 3% price cut. So they're actually cutting the price here on this $229,000 house. Now let's take a look at the zip code, everyone. 77016. This is how I want you guys to think about these different areas when you go to buy. Take a look at the zip code. Pick it from the Zillow listing, go to Reventure app, type in that zip code, 77016. Let's see what's going on here in this zip code. Do we think prices are going to go up or down in this zip code in the next 12 months? Well, in the last 12 months, values are down 8.2%. So this is a market that's already dropping, down 8.2% in the last 12 months, and then our price forecast for the next 12 months is another minus 7.9. So this is an important thing to know. Like if you're buying a specific zip code, is your zip code going to go down 7.9% in the next 12 months according to Reventure's forecast? If so, it's going to dictate that you should be a bit more, let's just call it conservative in your offer strategy. You should offer below ask, right? You should anticipate that this market's going to go down with this minus 7.9% forecast, and you should, be not shameful. You shouldn't have shame about offering below asking price and actually bringing some of this data to the seller and saying, hey, we think this market's going to go down. There's a lot of inventory. That's why we're offering less than asking price. Let's make a deal happen. But not all areas are like that, right? So this is a pocket which is really, I would say, crashing here, northeast of Houston. If we zoom out and go to the southwest of Houston, right? If we go to like the area near Rice University, it's very wealthy area like neighborhoods called Bel Air, really nice area. Here's a house, 4-bed, 6-bath, 4,200 square feet, $1.5 million. Now I know a lot of people don't have money to buy a house for $1.5 million. The monthly payments can be $1,300 a month. So let's just take a look at this just to see what's this seller doing. You can see this house was worth around $4 million before the pandemic, so they actually haven't jacked up the price too much over the last couple of years. The question is, where are values going to go in this zip code in the future? 77006. 77006 in Houston. Well, let's find out, everyone. 7706. Now, this is a market that's a bit different. Now, here, it's a neighborhood called Montrose. This is the west of downtown Houston. Values are down 1.5% in the last 12 months. So this area has started to go down, but not by nearly as much as the neighborhood in northeast Houston. And in terms of the price forecast, we're forecasting actually stable prices during the next 12 months. We're forecasting values to actually go up 1.4%. This area was a big seller's market last year. It shifted to being kind of like an average balanced market. And we think prices are going to go up 1.4%. So if you are buying this house, definitely negotiate and try to get a good deal. But understand it's in a zip code that has more resilience. We don't think prices here are going to drop 7 or 8% like they did in the previous zip code. We think they're going to be more stable. And ultimately, if you're a home buyer or investor, this is the type of analysis that you need to do to make a better decision, make a more informed decision, hopefully save money on your home purchase. The last thing anyone wants to do, everyone, like let me know if you think this way. Save up all the money to buy a house, right? And then finally find it, and then buy a house in an area that's going to go down 10% and just like, oh, you didn't know that, right? Or, maybe the flip side is, you're waiting and waiting to buy, but maybe the neighborhood you're waiting to buy is going to see values get even more expensive over the next year, and waiting isn't going to do you any good, right? You have to understand what the market metrics are, the market trends in your area, and unlock that forecast so you can make a more educated decision. But I think more broadly in Houston, it's a housing market that I actually like more in the long run than a lot of other housing markets. Like, Dallas has kind of been a big bubble for the last couple of years. Austin has crashed the last couple of years. Houston's been more stable, and historically it's been more stable. We talked about in the beginning how prices in Houston really have never gone down by more than 4% in a year in the last 2.5 decades. It's just been a much more stable market in the last 2.5 decades. It doesn't have wild swings up and wild swings down like some other areas, and it still has good population growth. So this is one thing to understand about Houston's market. If you zoom out to the metro view on Reventure and zoom out, if you compare Houston to a lot of different areas, I kind of want to look at the population growth. What's this population growth in Houston looking like? So Houston's population has increased by 8.3% the last 5 years. 8.3% increase. And I see you guys in the live chat. I'll take some of your requests in a second. Houston's population has grown by 8.3%. So that's not quite as good as Austin, but it's still really, really strong. 8.3% population growth is towards the top of the table for U.S. housing market metros. If we break the population growth down by county, we can see Montgomery County to the north is really booming. 23% population growth the last 5 years. Harris County hasn't grown by as much, 6%. Fort Bend County has 18% population growth. Brazoria County has 10% population growth. Liberty County is 30%. Waller 26%. So some of these outlying suburban and rural counties around Houston absolutely booming in terms of population, but values are now starting to go down. Home values are now starting to go down in these different areas, and so that's a signal to you guys who've been waiting. The market is shifting in your favor. The market is shifting in your favor in these outlying suburbs as well as in Harris County. The question is just how much more values will go down over the next year, and when will be the right time to buy. I actually saw an interesting article here on Fox 26 Houston. It's actually talking about the Houston housing market. Is it a good time to buy or sell? With this article from Fox 26 Houston came out about a month ago. And they're talking about how high prices and steep mortgage costs are keeping would-be buyers away. They actually talked though about how Houston home sales have bucked the national trend, and volume actually went up in August from the previous year, which is true actually. Sales in Houston did go up a bit year over year. However, the inventory of local homes for sale, approximately 40,000, is a decade high. So the issue is, even though sales are up a bit year over year, the inventory is a decade high, right? So the months of supply on the market is continuing to increase, and they interviewed some realtors here in this article talking about Houston's housing market. They're calling it a balanced market, which is great for buyers and sellers, says the incoming head of the Houston Association of Realtors, Teresa Hill. Now buyers have a little more negotiating power, sellers are still getting solid offers if the price is right. I don't know if I would totally agree that Houston's a balanced market. I would say Houston is a buyer's market. So I think this is important for you guys to understand, right? If you're out there, you're talking to realtors, where is Houston? Houston is a buyer's market. I think that much is not really without question right now. Houston being a buyer's market. It's an area where the inventory has absolutely exploded, absolutely gone through the roof. And pause everyone, just having a little bit of a technical issue right now. Loading the graph here. It's an area where prices are going down 1.9% year over year. Values are going down 1.9%. And we think values are going to drop even more over the next year. The inventory is really, really high. Inventory is 37% above the long-term average. That's telling you, inventory 37% above the long-term average, that's telling you that this is a market where prices are going to drop. The inventory surplus in Houston is 37%. Days on market. Days on market has grown by 16% year over year. Days on market has grown by 16%. Price cut rate. 23% of sellers cut the price. All of these data points, and we're going to try to load this graph. All these data points are telling you folks that there is a lot of inventory on the market in Houston, and that this is an area where it is a definitive buyer's market. So it's not a buyer's market, it's a buyer's market right now. How much supply there is, how much think that your time is now, but your time is coming. I think it's now time to start by keeping the top, right? We're seeing prices go down. We're seeing a lot of listing go on Zillow. Actually, really interesting thing I found in Houston on Zillow was that there's a lot of affordable homes in Houston for sale. So if you go here on Zillow and you isolate, it's like the internet is just having issues in general right now. I apologize. This is part of the issue with doing live streams. Sometimes when you do live streams, not everything works like you want it to work. But I was going to show you guys how Houston actually has a lot of homes for sale under 250,000. A lot of homes for sale under 250,000. Now, not really in this zip code here, but to the north of Houston, so we have downtown Houston over here. To the north of downtown Houston, there's a lot of homes for sale under 250,000 going up to spring. So, I would say, as far as a market that I think could do better in the long run, Houston's definitely up there. It's still relatively affordable, right? Like you can still kind of get a pretty good deal in a lot of different areas. Even out in like a wealthier suburb like Candid or Sugarland, a lot of houses are still listed for around 400 grand. Even less in some cases. There's new builds out there that you can get for less than 400 grand. You can buy some of these houses in Houston for less than $170, $180 a foot. So there's a level of just affordability in Houston's housing market that doesn't exist in a lot of the other growth housing markets. Right? If you go to other housing markets for growing populations like Houston, the prices are going to be higher. So the fact that the prices are more affordable is a big reason why I like Houston's market going forward. Additionally, it has solid population growth. So I would expect as a buyer over the next year in Houston's housing market, you're going to see more inventory. We're probably going to scrape that 40,000 listings count at some point in 2026, according to data from realtor.com on Reventure. We're probably going to see prices go down across the metro around 3% over the next 12 months. That's our Reventure forecast, 3% decline over the next 12 months. But it really varies heavily by zip code. It really has a lot of variation by zip code. And let's just actually look at some of your comments here in the live stream. A couple of you chimed in about Houston's market. What are you guys saying here in the live stream? So one of you is asking about Salina, Texas. Salina, Texas is actually a suburb north of Dallas. We can cover that in a second. Another person is saying the east side of Houston is like the south side of Atlanta. It's not the safest area. So that's true. The east side of Houston has a lot of real estate investors that own. There's a lot of real estate investors and a lot of lower income households. So, values are going down there more first. And then Pac-Man also makes a great point. The Woodlands will go down 2,000 layoffs expected at ExxonMobil. So this is actually a really good point. Houston's economy depends a lot on oil. Oil is a big part of Houston's economy. Exxon is now cutting 2,000 workers as the oil sector job losses mount. So this could be somewhat of a secular headwind for Houston's market. We have Exxon cutting 2,000 jobs. And they're not the only oil company that's doing that. Other oil companies are also doing that. They're cutting workforce. And as oil companies cut workforce or go higher, we could see slower job growth in Houston in the short term. The question is, I apologize, I don't know why my internet doesn't seem to want to load anything past the first page. But as you can see here, lots of news reports about Exxon wanting to slash thousands of jobs. Major corporate restructuring, a 3 to 4% decline in global workforce. Exxon's HQ is up by the Woodlands in Houston. And so that's something that could cause some slowdown in Houston's market. That would be up in Montgomery County. So in Montgomery County, which covers the Woodlands, prices are down 0.2% in the last 12 months. So they started to go down, they're still stable. This is a market that in the last crash didn't really go down. In the last crash, Montgomery County was flat. From 2007 to 2012, a 1.2% drop in Montgomery County. So again, this is a stable area. Harris County went down 9.9% in the last crash, but Montgomery County only went down 1.2%. So again, folks, if you buy to the northern suburbs of Houston, I kind of like that market. More long-term, it's more stable. Maybe there's some short-term issues due to Exxon doing some layoffs, but generally the prices are a bit more affordable there. You can buy a house, $2,400 a month payment. Harris County is actually even cheaper, $1,900 a month payment. So I want to encourage you guys If you're a home buyer and investor, definitely dig into this data on Reventure app. It's all very helpful for you as a buyer to get a grounding in terms of what's going on in the market and ultimately understand the future of the market, particularly our home price forecast. You're going to want to access that price forecast for your city and zip code. You can access under the premium data points, also the long-term growth score, 5-year home value trends, how overvalued markets are, price cut rate. This is all data that's going to be really helpful for you. You can access it from Houston as well as any other area in Texas and the U.S. And I just kind of want to quickly run through for you guys some of the benefits of signing up for the Reventure app premium program. So this is the program I've been using in this whole video, everyone. Reventure app is built just for you guys as home buyers and investors to make more informed decisions. When you sign up for premium on Reventure app, it allows you to track home prices in every zip code in the U.S., identify overvalued and undervalued markets through that overvaluation rate, access the 1-year price forecast from the zip code, which helps you know where the market is heading. We talked earlier in this video about how some areas in Houston are forecast to go down almost double digits, other areas are forecast to go up. You're going to want to know where your zip code falls. Additionally, you get the full suite of market trends metrics, inventory, price cut, days on market, and home sales to help you be the master of your local market, all for only $49 a month. So folks, that $49 a month is less than there's only 0.1% of the cost of buying a $350,000 house, more or less the average house in Houston. Only 0.1% to gain peace of mind and potentially save money on your home purchase. You can access all this data under the premium plan at www.reventure.app. That's the web app that I'm using in this video. You can also download Reventure app in the mobile app stores for Apple and Android. You can access the premium plan there as well. So do that right now, everyone. If you're a Houston home buyer, Texas home buyer, access the data on Reventure app.